Hi and welcome to today's video, which is all about my disability, Sacral Agenesis. I've got my glasses on because it's going to be educational. So I've got my phone which has got the information on. This information has been taken from Wikipedia, and I will put all the relevant links at the bottom of the page in case you want to find out any more information or check that I am not making it up. Right, bear with me because I'm going to read it off of my phone. Sacral agenesis is a congenital disorder in which there is abnormal fetal development of the lower spine. This condition exists in a variety of forms, ranging from partial absence of the tailbone regions of the spine to absence of the lower vertebrae, pelvis and parts of the thoracic and or lumbar areas of the spine. Some big words here. In some cases where only a small part of the spine is absent, there may be no outward sign of the condition. In cases where more substantial areas of the spine are absent, there may be fused, webbed or smaller lower extremities and paralysis. So my spine is the tailbone that is affected. I don't have a sacrum or a coccyx, so I don't really have, unless you look at me closely or I show you, I don't really have much outward signs of the disability. Sacral agenesis syndrome is usually associated with maternal diabetes, but not gestational diabetes. So that's mothers that already have the pre-existing diabetes. A lot of mothers I know suffer from gestational diabetes. Sacral agenesis is not a risk if it's gestational, it's only if it's pre-existing. Not all children born with sacral agenesis will have a diabetic mother. I do have a diabetic mother. She's been diabetic since she was in her 20s. Before advances in medical treatment were available, full amputation of the legs at the hip was often performed. More recently, the amputation, which is actually a disarticulation, so that's where they just dislocate the bones and take them away, so there's no actual bone cutting. It's done at the knee for those who have bent knee positions and webbing between thigh and calf to enable more ease of mobility and better seating. Some children with knee disarticulation use prosthetic legs to walk. Prosthetics for children without substantial hip and trunk control is usually abandoned in favour of faster and easier wheelchair mobility as the child's weight and age increases. Children may walk on their hands and are generally able to climb and move about to accomplish whatever they need and want to accomplish. Children more mildly affected may have a normal gait and no need for assistive devices for walking. Others may walk with bracing or crutches. There is typically no cognitive impairment associated with this disability, although if you knew how many takes it's taken me to say that, you might think differently. Adults with this disability can live independently, attend college and have careers in various fields. It occurs at a rate of approximately 1 per 25,000 live births, so I'm pretty rare. In the 1800s, before medical advances, some children with sacral agenesis were born with their legs completely fused together, and people thought they were mermaids, which I think is really cool. So we may not have normal mobility, we may have physical impairments, but we're pretty damn magical. I was born in 1985 and I was diagnosed at birth. My birth saw doctors and physicians reaching for textbooks. They'd never seen anything quite like me before, which I think they'll probably say now they've never seen anything quite like me. My mum had to have a C-section because I was born breech. So basically I was the wrong way round, and when I came back my legs were like bent up over my shoulders and they had to sort of keep putting them down. My mum would feed me and she'd have to put my legs down to get them out of the way of my face. Sadly for my husband, I can no longer get my legs behind my head, so there are a couple of famous people with sacral agenesis. There's an Australian Paralympian with sacral agenesis, and I think the person you'll recognise the most, especially if you're a fan of American Horror Story, is Rose Siggins. This is Rose Siggins. And yeah, she was in American Horror Story Freak Show. She was the, I don't know what her character was called in it. Sadly, Rose passed away a few years ago. As I said earlier, my spine stops at my tailbone. I don't have a sacrum or coccyx, so that's pretty important. Nearly all of your nerve endings for sort of your lower extremities come from these sort of bones in your spine. That's why people with sacral agenesis tend to have mobility problems. Some are obviously much more advanced than others. Some people have had amputations, one leg, two legs, above knee or below knee. It's quite varied really. I am quite lucky. I can walk. I was a late walker. I crawled a lot when I was a child, so I've got super strong arms now. I've had a number of operations to correct my gait, to enhance my mobility and to improve my quality of life. These include things like having my knees used to be on the outside of my legs. I walked on tiptoes, so when I was 6 I had the whole of my legs, both legs were turned inwards, and my feet were placed into a permanent sort of flat position so I wouldn't walk on my tiptoes anymore. I've had ankle fusions, I've had a hip replacement, I've had urological surgery in the past. There's a lot going on really. As it's quite a rare disability, there's not a huge amount known about it. Even in this country there isn't a huge amount known about it. When I was younger, my mum had sort of limited resources of people that she could reach out to. She did find a group of people, and over the years we've been in contact with a few families who have children like me with sacral agenesis. I'm pleased to say that the advancements made in medicine and diagnosis are so much more improved now. So people really can have a much better quality of life with this disability. If you Google sacral agenesis, there's a lot of sort of medical speak online, and a lot of things that if you just read them and you don't know about it, they can be quite scary. Some of the information is quite scary. Over recent years I have joined a Facebook group dedicated to adults with sacral agenesis. There's a sister site to this group where parents and families of people with sacral agenesis, especially younger children, can get advice. And I think it's really nice for them to see that as we get older we do have such a good quality of life. We can really strive in whatever we want to do. And I think that's really important for families that have young children that have maybe just been diagnosed and aren't really sure what the future holds for them. You can find a lot more information about sacral agenesis at a website called isacra.org. I'll pop the link down below for that one. There is a huge amount of resources there. There are blogs, there's photos, there's medical information. There's a huge amount of research gone into the site, and it's really useful. The Facebook group is closed. It's only for people with sacral agenesis, and we talk about pretty personal medical things in there. There's a lot of too much information, which actually is really useful. It's really useful to know that if I've got a specific problem that I think might be related to my disability, I can pop in the group, I can ask, and no one's going to think I'm weird or judge me or think I'm disgusting and gross or anything. It's a really helpful place to have. So one of the things I've got to show you is an x-ray of my hips. This is after I've had my hip replacement done. There is some metal work in there. But basically, this is what my x-rays look like. I've got a really weird tiny pelvis, and there is no bones in my sacrum. And there are no bones sort of there. So it looks like a big gaping hole. It's really weird. This is, sorry, it's a reflection off of my window. So this is my hips. It is possible to look fat in an x-ray, so that's really nice. But here is you can see how small my pelvis is, and this hole is where the end of your spine should be. For comparison, here are some other hip x-ray pictures, and you can see in them, you can see where the spine ends. So that's just for comparison. You can see mine, great big gaping hole. You could just literally punch a hand right through my stomach, and there's just nothing where the bones should be. And that's it really. That's sort of the main facts about my disability. That's the science, the education behind it. I'm not gonna today go into too much detail about how it affects me, what's happened to me, how my life has been. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what sacral agenesis was. As always, you can visit my blog at www.estellosaurus.co.uk. I'd love for you to give me a like and a subscribe. Any questions, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions, if you want to know anything specific about sacral agenesis or about me, just get in touch below. I'd love to hear from you. If you have sacral agenesis and you've stumbled across this video, I'd also really like to hear from you. I'd like to hear what your experience of it has been, or if you've got any questions for me, I'd love to hear from you. So give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.